Okay, hey everybody, it's Keith. Welcome back to another episode of our CIO Wisdom Share. This week we're joined by a very experienced CIO who's going to talk to us a little bit about a way of thinking to approach working with stakeholders to get initiatives approved. Has there been any greater accomplishment you've achieved in your career than having the CEO not want you to go because he trusts you?
I must say honestly, as you know, on my mom, everyone that I've worked with has felt that way. And I think that I've been lucky that I've never really had to look for a job. It always comes to me as, can you come and help us? And the word help is what drives me. Can you make it better for us? And and that's what happened, again, in this situation where they knew I had the background, but I kept saying, oh, I'd like to kind of stay on the client side. And it just evolved that, can you help us, even if it's for a short time? So that is my greatest accomplishment. And I think that I always say, when I finally put on LinkedIn, retired, people will come out who worked with me, who worked for me, and who I worked for that would work with me anytime, anywhere on any project. So that for me, I think, drives me to be able to learn very quickly. I mean, knew nothing about government programs. And when I went on the interview, I said, look, I can help with a lot of things, but I don't know your sector. And they said, you'll learn it. And it took a little bit of time, but in doing that, you start to see the similarities. So if you operate the same way and you operate with a process viewpoint, of what is that workflow? What is that end state? I think that you'll always win from an integrity. If you act on what do you want to be known for as a CIO? Oh, I want to do something really cool. Let's do MuleSoft or whatever the buzzword is. It doesn't mean that you don't still look at those things and see if they fit in with you. Like when cloud came along, it was a no-brainer. We all had to really drive because just from a management of servers and all of those 24/7 models. That makes sense. But there's a lot of other things that are, let's R&D it. We don't have that kind of money anymore, especially when you go to a small company. So I hope that answered your question.
It does. Thank you. I appreciate that mentality very, very much. So thank you. Last question. So along this way, both at your current role and previously, are there, as you look back, are there traps you think that CIOs fall in that you can share?
When I think of the really good CIOs that I have worked for, there was always a common thread of intellect and a real understanding of the development management, the cadence, the milestones, the things that will trip you up if you don't have good planning and some type of a PMO organization. I think that when you don't do that, and I have a couple of directors that I inherited that are very fly by the seat of their pants because people react to the client screaming, for example, right? So, and manufacturing is famous for that. This is what they want. This is what, Macy's wants. This is what Saks wants. I mean, I remember years ago. But when you are able to be smart enough as a CIO or even a COO, to step back one bit and say, I am acknowledging and understanding what it is we need to do. Give me some time to figure out how we can do it in the best path. I think when a CIO, and I've had CIOs that have gone, I'm not doing that for them. The business is crazy. When you do that, that's just putting up the wall. But you try to transition that. Your trap would be if you would say, I don't have the resources and I don't have the time, so I'm not going to do it. Immediately turns your business users off. And believe me, you won't get the money to spend on the next initiative. If you start saying, okay, wait, it's a little bit of a crazy ask, but let me go back and see what I can do. I think that that's the way of not getting trapped into this. IT doesn't understand my business, right? IT doesn't know what I need. Oh, I didn't get my revenue. I've seen 100 decks with strategies, right? And they get to the end where they had to do their quarterly review. And they're saying to the CEO, well, IT didn't do this for me on time, so that's why I didn't meet my goal. You never want to be in that trap, right? You want them to say, We had a client that it was a state client, and they needed something. They said January, right? And we said, okay, we can't do the whole thing in January. Here's the phases we can do. Deliver something. Show them the roadmap. Don't say no. And I've seen it where they've said, I don't have the resources, I don't have the time, so we're not going to do it. And then you can bet that manager of that business is going to be in front of the CEO saying, I couldn't get it done because IT didn't give me what I needed. That's the biggest trap that I've seen. And I think there's a change. And if you look at, every once in a while, I look at LinkedIn to see like where some people are that I used to work with. And some of the CIOs, the best ones, have the business and the IT piece. If they just take it as a technology deliverable and just being service to that project at that time, they fail. And that's why you see so much movement. CIOs, it's usually 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe 3 years tops. But I think you see a difference now. I think they're recognizing the ones that do it the way I describe, the good way, they're at the seat at the board. Okay. The guy that was prior to me, for example, he's not was never in the board meetings. How can you not have your technology guy in the board meeting? I had, at Liz Claiborne, some terrific CIOs who are retired now because age-wise, I think I'm 10, 20 years younger than them. But they were at the table. They were at the strategy table. Don't make the mistake of just being behind the scenes and staying in. I've seen some CIOs just stay in an office and look at the project plans and just say, okay, we did this, we did this, we did this. But with what you did, was that really what was the best for the business unit? And I'm not saying do everything they ask, trust me, because business users can be crazy, right? But find that hybrid that puts you in a position to really be seen as the driver for change and the partner for driving business and business objectives. I used to think it was a Pollyannish way, but it works. It definitely works because I've seen it. I've seen really, really good people. When I was at Burberry, there was an English guy that was the CIO, and such a large organization, a global organization. Lots of money to spend, and he was at the table, and he was daily, weekly calls with Angela, and being at that level with the CEO and being part of the solution. It's the best way.
Okay, so you talked about initiatives to get shareholder approval, and you talked a little bit about cybersecurity. So that has got to be first and foremost in protecting your infrastructure and your reputation, and therefore probably a pretty important piece to what you have to talk about.
Securing our internal ecosystem, right, and data visibility, and really, making sure that that's tight. That was one of the first things the board asked me in the last review was, especially when there was that breach. And I had to actually do a sheet, a part of the deck, to describe what we already had in place and what we tightened up to make sure that we would not be vulnerable. You're not going to have a hard argument with your CFO if you're going to spend money to make sure that your internal ecosystem is secure.
Okay, Anne, thank you so much. That was extremely generous, and I honestly believe that's going to be very, very powerful for a lot of the viewers. So thank you for your generosity, and I look forward to talking to you again.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Okay, have a good afternoon. Hope you heard a few things that triggered some new thinking for you. We do these conversations on IT topics weekly, so please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you get updates on new content, as well as you can post comments and, more importantly, suggest topics that you'd like us to address. You can see that we have some pretty amazing resources. So please let us know how we can help you on your upcoming digital transformation and enterprise IT projects. Thanks very much. Until next time.